My friend Bob loves taxidermy. I love Bob. He's a great guy. He just has some unique interest. I met Bob in college, where he was studying to be an accountant. He told me he was just doing accounting because all of his family are accountants, and they're sending him to school, and he just wants to make them happy. But Bob's real dream? He wants to open up his own taxidermy shop. So I got a phone call from my friend a few weeks ago, and he was telling me how stressed out he is for Thanksgiving. Now that he's graduated with his accounting degree, his family all expects him to get a job as an accountant, but he's secretly been working at a taxidermy shop instead. He has this one cousin who works for a big accounting firm who won't stop questioning Bob about when he's going to get an accounting job. And worse than that, he won't stop berating Bob for, in his words, his stupid taxidermy projects. He told me that every time he sees his cousin, they always get into a shouting match. And Bob asked me if I knew what to do. So Bob, this one's for you. Today, we're going to be talking about rudeness, and we'll go over 6 steps you can take to deal with any rude people you come across. Let's get into it. Before we can look at rudeness, we need to look at its opposite, politeness. Why do we do polite things? What's the point of saying thank you or letting an elderly woman take your seat on the bus? If a child asks somebody why we do polite things, they might respond, because it's the right thing to do. But why is it the right thing to do? In Dr. P.M. Forney's fantastic book, The Civility Solution, he says that to be polite is to give regard. It's the act of acknowledgement. When we say thank you, we're acknowledging that someone just went out of their way to do something for us. He points out that the reason that we do this is because it creates a system of reciprocal altruism. That's a fancy way of saying that if I help you, even though I have to go out of my way to do it, I will in turn be helped when I need it. We give our bus seat to the elderly because one day we're going to be older, and it'll be hard for us to stand and we'll need to sit. So politeness isn't just this hoity-toity tradition. It's the thing that makes society take care of one another. It's the right thing to do because it helps everyone as a whole. So if politeness is to acknowledge and regard, rudeness is to disregard. It's when we look elsewhere, when we withdraw attention, and with it, respect and consideration. If an elderly woman got on the bus and gestured for me to let her take my seat, and I ignored her, I'd be acting rudely. I would be disregarding what she needs. Rudeness is control through invalidation. It comes in a few varieties, but they have one thing in common. They bruise and they wound. There's 2 types of rudeness: unfocused rudeness and focused rudeness. Suppose you're having a conversation with your uncle, but the entire conversation he keeps checking his phone. This is unfocused rudeness. He's not targeting you in particular for rude treatment. You just happen to be caught in the crossfire. It's just a lack of consideration. It's a lack of acknowledgement that you're having a conversation with him. You're here and present, and he's not. Your uncle didn't mean it to be a personal slight or to cause offense. He's not trying to control or intimidate you. He's just concerned with something else, and he wasn't paying attention to the way his behavior came off. It's letting the door swing in someone's face, playing music too loud when people are trying to talk. Unfocused rudeness is disregard without intent. But let's say your name's Bob, and you like taxidermy, and you have an annoying cousin who's actively trying to affirm his dominance by messing with you. That's focused rudeness. This is intentional. It's meant to control through invalidation. Your hobbies are dumb. You're wrong about politics. You don't know what you're talking about. This is when people are showing off. They're trying to intimidate, threaten, humiliate, dissuade, and dismiss. And when rudeness happens, it erodes self-esteem. It adds stress. It's bad for all kinds of relationships. And worst case scenario, it can escalate into violence. It's very tempting and very difficult to not respond to rudeness by being rude right back. But if you do that, it's going to escalate. So when Bob's cousin is being rude, what can he do? It's time for the
Takeaway tip.
PM Forney gives us the blueprint in how to respond in one of these situations. He uses a technique called the 3+3 sequence. The first 3 points help you calm down and keep a clear head, and the last 3 points help you take action. The first thing he says to do is to cool off and calm down. You're going to be angry. You're going to be heated. So just like in the video on lowering anxiety, we're going to take some deep breaths. Take a few deep breaths and count to 10 or 20 if necessary. Don't take it personal. Very often, you just happen to be in the line of fire. Remember, people are rude because they're in a bad state of mind. They're preoccupied with something worrisome that happened at work, or they're stressed about their wife. Or remember that people act rudely because people have been rude to them in the past. As F. Scott Fitzgerald said, it's not a slam at you when people are rude. It's a slam on the people they've met before. The liberating feeling that this is not about you may free you from the need to confront. If it's unfocused rudeness, it might just be better to ignore it. Decide what to do. As you consider bringing the issue to the offender's attention, make sure this is a good place and time to do so. You have 3 options. You can let the slight go, you can address it then and there, or you can postpone addressing it until it'd be a more appropriate time to talk about it. If it's in public, like around a Thanksgiving table, consider talking to them in private afterwards, so they won't just try to save face and not look wrong in front of the entire group. It's totally okay to let the slight go unremarked and forget about it. But if you do decide not to speak, remember that by ignoring the rudeness, you grant permission for more in the future. These next 3 points are to help you take action. State the facts. As subjectively as you can, just recount what happened. Inform the other person the impact they had on you. Remember to speak in I statements. Don't say, you did this, you did that. Because I statements let you bring the problem to the attention of the person who caused it without overtly blaming them. There's a big difference between, you are always so inconsiderate and try to hurt my feelings, versus, I feel like you were being inconsiderate and were trying to hurt my feelings. And finally, we're going to request that hurtful behavior not be repeated. Do this politely and firmly and be unapologetic. You're laying down a boundary. So remember, rudeness is when people disregard. It's when we withdraw attention, and with it, respect and consideration. There's 2 types of rudeness. Unfocused rudeness, which is unintentional, and focused rudeness, which is an intentional power game. And when someone's being rude to you, instead of taking the bait and being rude right back, try PM Forney's 3+3 sequence to help calm yourself down and address the problem in a way that will actually stop that rude behavior from happening again. We're going to be off next week, but if you want more information about rudeness, check out The Civility Solution by PM Forney. And check out his list of common responses people will give you after you've used the 3+3 sequence and the counters you can say to them. That infographic will be up on the Pinterest page. And a special thank you to Dr. Stacy Young for the help researching this episode. You can find a link to all of her stuff in the description below. Don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button to be notified every time a new episode is released. If you want to take part in the Barton Blueprint for Emotional Intelligence's mission to destigmatize mental health, the most helpful thing you can do is share this episode with your friends and family. The more people who share, the faster this information is going to get out into the world to the people who really need it. Also, if you like this show and want more information, go ahead and follow us on all of our social media. There's a bunch of extra content like infographics of some of the takeaway tips and key concepts, as well as some fantastic mental health quotes by many of the most notable names in the field of psychology. The links are down in the description below. And if you want to know more about any of the research used in this episode, I always include the links in the description below. And as always, thank you for taking care of each other and taking care of yourself. I'll see you next week.